Hello students and YouTube viewers alike. This is your Professor Mike again, coming at you with a compressed version of all three of those big introductory lectures that we had for Dreamweaver at the beginning of this playlist. So this compresses all of the concepts from all three of those lectures. If we jump over to the web here, I can show you what I'm talking about. This right here is a list of everything we've learned in those 3 1-hour lectures. So that took some time, and I spent a lot of time, as I've explained many times, covering like the kind of wrong turns people make when they're doing this stuff. And a lot of it has to do with our being a little bit spoiled by how easy computers are to use, and we're not good file managers anymore. And that's a very important thing when you're creating a website, is file management. That's the biggest part of this upcoming test you guys have in my class as students in my course, okay? And this video, unlike the others, which were all an hour each, will take every one of those concepts that each were part of a single video that had an hour delivered to it, and cram it all into less than a half an hour. So what you're about to see is everything that's going to be on your test compressed and presented to you in a way that assumes you know the basics and the ins and outs of it. So you're going to see me do a bunch of stuff. And if you don't know what I'm doing, believe me, I've covered it extensively in the hour lecture videos and in the classroom, okay? So you need to go back to that stuff and review it. If you're comfortable with that, this is your best way to go in and review for the test and make sure you're ready to go. And this is everything we're going to do. I won't go back to this list again. I'm just showing it to you now. I usually go back at the end to say this is what we did, but this is not going to be one of those types of videos. Even at a half an hour, it's still going to be a long video for YouTube. And then finally, with those first 3 lectures and this half-hour review video, you guys are ready to make a website. Whether you're in my class, not in my class, you'll be ready to start looking at my other videos, you know, enjoying more the convenience of having like a one-off video, learning how to do one thing at a time, stuff like that quickly. If you did take the time to sit through my initial 3-hour lecture videos, you'll see that it's not that hard to make a website. That's the whole point. It does take a bit of time, but it's worth it. So these are the concepts we're going to cover in this video right now. And not being in my course, you won't have access to these links, but something that I'm giving to my students this week, if you are in my course, in addition to seeing my stuff on YouTube and having access to everybody else's stuff on YouTube, Adobe also has a nice location for additional help and resources for their apps, and they know their apps well, right? So I am going to provide you guys with a direct link here. If you're not in my class, you might have to just kind of, well, go to helpx.adobe.com and just look for the Dreamweaver page. This is the page specific to Dreamweaver. So when we start doing stuff after the test, like connecting to the server, you know, dealing with changing more graphics and doing more graphic optimization, and then getting it to apply to your CSS, stuff like that, you might run into some questions, and this is a great place to ask them. I think probably my YouTube channel is just as good. Okay, and we're going to keep covering a few things through the intro playlist with shorter and shorter videos as we move on. And then once you're comfortable with all that stuff, you can move on to the managers playlist, where it's a bunch of stuff like moving entire sites to other... Actually, I'll probably put that in the intro playlist, moving sites. You can export the connection, the site connection, and put it into another computer, the site connection that you learned. So a little quick send-off before we do our full review here in this compressed video. Just wanted to show you guys some extra spots. So we've got the Adobe help area, and then you're going to have more of my stuff in YouTube, and all 4 of these playlists are associated with my web course and all full of good stuff. Okay, and oh, I had that open there too. So let's get that stuff closed up. That's the template we're going to use for the practice here, and we already talked about that. So this is another list. Not the full list there that came out of, that was the collection of each of the lists in FOL. When we did our stuff in week 5, and then again in week 6, we had 2 lists. Those are all the things we've covered. Every single thing in that list is not actually going to be in the test. And I don't list the basic computing concepts in those lists because I assume you guys already know them. I do actually reveal a little more of that in this skills required for the test. So the master list is what I just had up. This is what I have up here, and as you can see, it starts with a bunch of information on how the test is going to be laid out. You can't talk to each other, right? You're coming in, I expect you to know this stuff, and then I actually give you an exact list of the stuff I'm looking for, okay? Including some of your basic Windows skills. So unlike the giant list I just showed you, this is the stuff that for sure will be in the test. And again, I'm not going to jump back over to this. All of these resources are here for you if you're in my class. What I'm going to do now is go through the instructions, which I'm not going to show you, of course, but I actually have a set in front of me for one of the versions. And I'll give you the basic gist of how this test is put together without doing every single instruction. So this will be done in probably substantially less than half an hour if things go as planned here. And then you will have seen everything you have to do in the whole test in this video. Now, as I mentioned already, you're going to see a lot of things and be like, whoa, what just happened? It's probably because you need to go back and take a look at, I already closed my YouTube channel up, but each of the first 3 initial lectures we had on Dreamweaver that we did in the class are also recorded on YouTube in extreme detail, okay? And if you skipped out on my class, and you may need to go back and watch that stuff. It may not be good enough to just watch this review video, all right? But for those of you that are pretty well versed at those skills now and you feel really comfortable about those videos, you're just going to see this stuff repeated now in a much faster and more compressed way. All right, so back to my introduction here, and I usually have a few notes for my viewers. We're going to jump back down. What I mean by compressed is that I'm not sitting there and going through all the steps of the file management and this what might happen if it goes wrong. I'm just going to do it right, and you should know what to do if you need to troubleshoot it because I've shown you that in the other videos. Is this the best video to review for my test? Yes, if you've come to class or seen the other ones, okay? I already talked about the additional video and tutorial content. You can check it out at Adobe's page, or you can keep focusing on my YouTube channel or check out other stuff on YouTube. And in a video like this, especially when I'm flying through stuff and trying to show you what you're going to experience in the test, pause me, go back, pause me, watch it. I can't say that stuff enough, okay? So you can try this alongside with me, or you can just watch and see what I do. If you do end up wanting to do it with me, I do have the demo site zipped up here, another practice site that you can use for the test. And if you're not in my course and you don't have access to that page, I have the free csstemplates.org page with the same template I'm going to use for the test as well. So the first thing I ask you to do, though, isn't going to have anything to do with those files yet. A lot of this test is file management, as I've explained to you guys. And your test is going to be zipped up as a test folder. Inside of it, it'll have an entire website folder and then this additional Word file where you're going to make some screenshots for me. And I'll show you how to do that in this video as well. So first step on the test is actually making a folder on your desktop, Mac, PC, whatever you're working on. You're going to set up a folder, and I'm going to give you it's got some big long specific name. I'm just going to call it test folder for the sake of this example. And then as soon as you make that, second thing you do is you go into Microsoft Word and you save up a new file in Word or whatever word processing program you have. It actually doesn't have to be Word. You can do it however you want. You save up a new file, you go to your desktop, and you put that in the test folder. Now, this is not your root directory for your site for your test. This is just a folder that contains everything for your test. And I think you're going to refer to that as like your last name, screenshots. As always, whenever you're naming folders or files, my rule about file names and folder names, no capital letters, no spaces. And I give you the exact names to have. If you decide you're putting capital letters in there, you're getting points off, okay? I'm serious about that. So once you set this up, one more thing you're going to throw in there is the root folder that is going to be the root folder for the site you're going to create, which is going to be based on a pre-designed template. So I'll give you some kind of name for that. It's probably not going to be this. I'm just typing this in for the sake of this example. Again, the stuff I'm doing in this video is not identical to what you do on the test, but it's review for what we've done in the last 3 lectures and should closely resemble the type of things I ask you to do on the test, okay? So once that's all set up, then you can finally open Dreamweaver, all right? So what I do to you during the test, or what I request of you as a student in my course, and you will have gone through this big set of instructions prior to the test. You are allowed to use resources. You're allowed to go anywhere on the web while you're taking the test. You just can't have headphones. But you're not allowed to talk to anybody or ask questions. So everything I'm doing here, which is all basic file management, you got to have a handle on this stuff. You can't raise your hand and say, I don't get it. Where do I put the folder? I mean, my instructions are crystal clear, all right? And I do give you the instructions in PDF format, which means I'm not giving you a hard copy. And that's deliberately, again, to make this a little tougher on the people that aren't. Guys, I need you to be the best computer users you can and the best file managers. By forcing you to have the PDF on your machine and go back and forth, read the instructions, go do it, go back. Yes, it does make it harder. I'm well aware of that. Students tell me every year, this makes it so much harder. I know that. That's all part of the test, okay? So as I'm going through these little things, you should be comfortable with this stuff to the point where you're not going to ask me about any of this. And that was the beginning of the test, actually, that I didn't talk about yet, where you have to go through these instructions and make sure you follow them. And they are, guys, they're very specific. They tell you exactly what to do, okay? So once you set up this little stuff, you can close that folder up. You can go and open Dreamweaver up, okay? And you should be comfortable with all this. Okay, as soon as you get Dreamweaver open, if you've been following along in the course, you should have your demo site set up here. It might be 5055 demo site, whatever I had your section name it. And it'll have all these pages and everything. This is what you're about to do for the test, but the test is going to require you to set up an additional site. So that means you're about to have another green folder pop up here. Now I know this is a bit annoying for you to have all these sites floating around on your machine, but it's all part of the process here. So you go to Dreamweaver site, you'd name it according to what I tell you to name it. I'm sure the name is a bit longer than this, but it involves your last name and stuff. And then you don't allow it to make a default folder somewhere in your machine. You go here and you go to your desktop and you find your test folder and you find your root directory for your site. As soon as you get in there, you'll see an empty folder, which is fine. There's nothing in it. You select it, you've gotten your root directory. At this point in the test, you're going to do something a little bit unusual in terms of a formal test. You're actually going to start taking screen prints of the work you're doing to prove to me that you've done it. And that's what this blank word processing file is for. So very briefly here, I want to take you back over to Fanch Online because I'm not going to waste a ton of time in the video showing this to you. If you're in my course, I have specific instructions, and I call it screen print in FOL because that's typically the name of the key if you can find it on your keyboard where you can do this. And I have a video here that walks you through it step by step, okay? And it does discuss what to do if you're on a Mac as well. And then if I jump back over to content, you can see right above that video I had some text instructions. So if you click on those, it'll walk you through step by step on how you can do this on a PC or on a Mac. So I don't think on a Mac you're going to have this cool little program called the Snipping Tool, which means Shift-Command-3 is probably going to be the simplest way for you to get this done. There's also some free download programs for Macs called like Snap. Here, I think this one, Screen Print Platinum or something. You can get some pretty easy free programs in case you're on an older Mac and Shift-Command-3 doesn't work, because that might be the case if you're on an older Mac. And I will be bringing this up in the class before your test, and I can't stress enough that if you're on a Mac, it's not an excuse for not being able to make screen prints. You have to figure this out before the test, which is why it's coming up in this review video, and I'm going to talk about it in class. And just out of curiosity, if you're not in my course and you do want to make screen prints, you can find all the same information just by Googling it, okay? Screen print is a very cool, neat little trick to kind of save things when you're in the middle of them, just like this test. So let's say I've taken a look at the instructions and I got a pretty good handle on what to do here. And I tell you, I want a screen print of your site setup, like your definition page. This is the site setup wizard is what this is called. I'm glad I mentioned that because I do think I might mention that as in those words in the test. When you go and click new Dreamweaver site, like from there or from any of the other spots where you can do it, it brings you into the site setup wizard. You don't need to go to these choices yet. You stick on site, you define the stuff. Before you click save, you would go and do a screen print. Now I might in the instructions on purpose tell you to click save and then tell you to do the screen print after, just because I want to make sure you're capable of going back into manage sites and double clicking. And if you're in CS5 again or an earlier version, this window might look a little bit different compared to what we're seeing in CS6 right now, but you'll still be able to see the sites you made and double click on the site you want to go back to the definition page for and take a screenshot of it. So if I tell you not to, not to do the screenshot right away, but then I ask for it, you should still be able to do it. So on my keyboard on my PC, I actually found a key that has PRNT-SCRN, print screen on it. It's over at the latter part of the F key row, like the function keys, and I have to hit function print screen to get it to do something. As soon as I do that, you saw the cursor like kind of blinked a little bit. It doesn't seem like anything really happened, but if I go into my Word file and go paste, which on my keyboard shortcut is Control V, or just edit paste, I could have gone. wherever that is in here. I use keyboard shortcuts. I don't even know what the heck it is. It's in here somewhere. Cut and paste. I'm not a big word guy, but I just Control V'd, and it literally took a picture of my screen. Okay, so this is what I want to see. If it's nice and big and you have big resolution, don't worry. I'll still be able to zoom in on it and be able to read what you did. And I'm going to know right away if you did this properly. If somebody sent you this screen print, I'm going to know right away it's theirs because their name's going to be there. Please remember that I have that program that scans for identical file registry information. If you guys share files during this test, which would not be hard to do, right? I mean, I just trust you guys. I'm not prohibiting a net connection or communicating with each other. I'm going to know, and you're going to get a 0, and it's a formal evaluation, which means you could be expelled. So you need to be very careful with that. And if I see stuff like where you got a screen print from somebody, which technically is not in a file that they saved, so you're probably thinking, oh, that won't have file signature information, and you're right. But if you take a look at the screen print, it's going to have their last name instead of yours. So you better be really careful, guys. This is not hard stuff. I just need you to do it yourself, okay? So that one I did simply by doing I found, and it might be Shift or Control print screen on your computer. It changes on every computer. It's hard for me to teach screen prints. And on a Mac, it's the Command Shift 3 thing. And on an older Mac, you might have to download a program. You got to sort that out before the test because I need these screen prints. If you're in a newer version of Windows, you can actually just go into the search box and search the word snip. And something called the Snipping Tool should come up right away. And you'll see I even have mine set up in my taskbar, excuse me. When you double click on the Snipping Tool, oh, I'm still in the middle of snipping something. No, here. So you got the Snipping Tool, you search for it, you found it. Okay, I just used it on another example. I started recording this video and it didn't go well. So anyway, I'm back doing it the right way this time. You're going to see your screen go all shady, and you would just take your mouse and click and drag out over the area you wanted to snip. And it makes a picture in this little Snipping Tool box, and you can right click on that and copy it and just paste it right into your Word file, and you got your screen print. So that's actually the same screen print. I just showed you 2 different ways. I did this print screen on my keyboard or that, and I'm in Windows. On a Mac, you're going to have to do it another way. So instructions are in FOL. It's a really easy, mindless, silly thing, guys. You're going to need to make screen prints during your test to show me you're in the right place doing the right things, okay? And then you can close your site dialog box back out, and you're ready to start doing some work in Dreamweaver. Okay, there's also a good chance before I have you start working in Dreamweaver, I'm going to have you take another screenshot of just the test folder, and it might look I know it's going to look different on your Mac too if you're on a Mac, but you should be able to take some sort of picture to show me outside of Dreamweaver you've actually created this folder, and it has this stuff inside of it, this which is about to be a root directory for a website. Okay, so I might throw a few extra screenshots in there. I may not discuss every single one of them in the video here. Just as long as you're comfortable making screenshots, you'll be able to follow the instructions and do what I'm asking you to do. Okay, and if your files are sorted like upside down or the other way around, I'm not going to care about that. Trust me. Okay, that would never affect your points. It's just whether or not you have the right stuff in the screenshot. Are you in this folder, and do you have these 2 things inside of it, all by the proper names? Okay. Once you're good with that, you got a couple screenshots in your screenshot file. You should probably be saving this thing along the way. You can just Control S in your Word file. Don't just leave it there and forget to save it and then lose all your screenshots and be like, oh, that's all part of the test, guys. If you lose that work, you lost the work. I'm not going back and letting you do this. Doing this all within this amount of time and following the instructions and doing that with the PDF and having to go back and forth and everything, that's part of the test. It makes us better computer users. It makes us better file managers. So in here, I ask you to create a blank HTML in Dreamweaver. Okay, so you could do that from File New, or you could just go right here, blank HTML. This should default open to Design View. I just happen to have it on Split View. When you're in here, I'm going to ask you to do some really basic stuff in the properties, and I'm looking down here. I'm not liking what there they are. Okay. I was going to say I didn't see my properties panel the way I want to, so I want to remind you guys again, if you're used to using this classic view and you don't see everything you want to see, just reset classic view and it should all go back to normal. I'm going to type my name in there. Okay. there. And as I've been mentioning, I might not have you do it in this order, but I've got my name in there. I actually want to change some page properties. I'm going to change the background color of the page. This is what I'm going to probably ask you to do. And a lot of you might choose black. If you choose a color like black, make sure you choose the text color that you're going to be able to see on black. And I might ask you to change a couple other things. This is just basic stuff. You don't have to do this HTML versus CSS. I don't think I actually specify in there. You're more than likely to do it CSS, which is what I'd prefer anyway, even though I say this is basic HTML work. And whether you do it in here or here, as long as it's done, I'm not going to be scrutinizing that. So you can click OK, and the text should be yellow. And then I ask you to highlight the text that you put in and use your basic properties panel, your properties inspector here to apply a heading 1 format. As soon as you apply the heading 1 format, you're pretty much done. I don't think I asked you to put any more content in that basic HTML page. You're pretty much done with that. But while the page is still open and while I can still see heading 1 in the properties inspector area, I ask you to do something else that we're going to use another screenshot for, which is to change your workspace view. And your workspace view is not going from code to design, from code to design. That's your workspace view up here, where I just reset classic view. If I said change to designer, and I might ask you to change to another one, you'd change. Okay, you'd do the screenshot. I just did a function print screen on mine. You'd go in here, you'd paste the screenshot. Okay, you'd quickly save the Word file, Control S. You go back here, you switch back to classic because that's what you want to be working in. And now I have you throw a raw folder in the main folder for the site. There's nothing in there yet. I'm having you set this up with the raw folder ahead of time so you can take the blank HTML file you made and do a save as on an HTML file and save it in the raw folder. Make sure you put it in the right folder. It's all basic file management as test page something name. I'm not sure what it was, but you put it in there. And now you even have a page in your site. And that's pretty much it. You can finally go and download the site at that point. So really, I mean, guys, I've been going kind of quickly. But we're going to go even faster now. We're 21 minutes in. This whole thing is going to get done in half an hour. Most of you won't finish it in half an hour. But what I'm about to do now is everything we did in those first 3 videos, leaving out a few things, and it's going to happen fast, okay? Just to show you how simple this is. So you already know how to do this. You're just going to see me do it more quickly in the context of what I'll ask you to do on the test, okay? So once that file's set up, you can close it. You can leave Dreamweaver open. 22 minutes and counting here. Screenshot file's open. Make sure it's saved so you don't lose anything. Okay, and then if you want to try this out with me, you can shoot over to FOL in week 7 and grab the practice site template. And as you're getting it, you don't want to open it up right from here. I still think that's what's happening to a lot of you that are using Macs. You're saying it's unzipping it automatically. I think you're just clicking open. And it's just opening it, and then you're not getting a zipped version, which is a bit of an issue because I need you to have a zipped version to put into the raw folder. So you'll still be able to do that. It's not a big deal. So save it down. If you're not in my class, you still want to try this with us, you can go to this page right here, this URL, and you can download the same exact site we're going to use as our practice site here. Okay, as soon as it's on your machine, I know already that mine went to the desktop. Okay, that's where I know my downloads go for Firefox. I've gone over that in detail in the other videos, how to follow and pay attention to where your downloads are going. I'm going to take this and put it right into the root directory for that test folder. Okay, so it's in there, it's going. In here now, I'm in the root directory. So if I can avoid it, when I go and unzip, I'd rather unzip right into this folder instead of unzipping into another folder called conglomerate, right? So you would do that by choosing extract here instead of extracting to that folder. And you may see the pile of books if you have WinRAR, which I have in this machine now. You guys may not see that. It may look like WinZip, and you got to extract it to a folder, and it turns out like this. If it turns out like that, you have to clean this up, okay? These are the site files. These are all the site files unzipped. All the site files unzipped need to go into this root directory. So very simply, you just cut them out of there, paste them into the root directory, and delete this nonsense folder that you don't need anymore. See how fast all that happened? Go back and watch it again. Watch it 10 times if you need to, because I'm not going to help you with that during the test. That's nothing but file management. As soon as you do that, you take the zipped version, and I want a copy of it saved in RAW. Okay? If you are on a Mac and the thing unzipped itself ahead of time, you take all the files, put them into the root directory, take the whole site, zip it up again by sending to compress zip or add to archive, whatever you have set up on your Mac, and then that would appear here as a zip folder, and you put that in RAW. The RAW version needs to be zipped. I've explained that in the other videos as well in detail and in class why we want it to be zipped, okay? And then you should throw the license in there as well, okay? That doesn't need to be floating around in there. All right, so we're set up. We're good to go. We got our conglomerate zipped up in there in the RAW. We got a test page in there that we saved in Dreamweaver. All the site files are out here in the main root directory. We can go into Dreamweaver, hit refresh, and we've got our site in there. Okay, so everything you just saw was kind of like the first class, almost, when you're setting up the site. I mean, I spent a lot of time going over that. I also want to mention, too, I know this is kind of annoying now. I told you to put all your sites in a folder on your computer called Sites or Websites, and now I'm going to have you do a Dreamweaver test, and I'm going to suggest that you put it into a test folder, not in that area. It's all just good file management to be able to handle that and deal with that, okay? It shouldn't be an issue. So I've got this test folder here. If I decide when I'm done with the Dreamweaver test, I want to move it into my Dreamweaver course-like folder or something, that will break the connection between the root directory that I have in the site. So you can just delete the site, because you don't really need to keep it. If you keep the files, I can always go back and look at them. You don't need to keep all these sites in here. So if you're practicing for the test and you're making all these additional sites, you can just pull them out by going to Manage Sites and clicking minus, and it'll take it out. Okay, in CS5, I think you actually have a little delete button. But all stuff that I've covered in the other videos. So now you've got a site set up. Now you have two sites. You got your demo site and your test site. We're in the test site. We are going to make some folders, okay? So and I might be asking you to do screenshots all along the way, so just be cognizant of that, okay? Now we're in Dreamweaver doing this stuff. Only the stuff I just did outside of Dreamweaver is the stuff you do out there, like with putting the stuff in the RAW folder. Anything else you do in Dreamweaver. So I'm going to ask you to make a folder called Pages, because you're going to put your pages in there eventually once you make them. I'm going to have you make a folder called Photos. Even though you already have an Images folder, you're going to have another one for Photos. It's just file management techniques. And then CSS, okay? And probably at this point too, I'll have you drag the CSS file and put it into CSS. And of course, with none of your files open, you just simply click Update. You have nothing to worry about. Everything worked. If I were to give you a test version that happened to have a style sheet that wasn't named styles, I'll probably tell you to rename it and you would update again there. All stuff you've already learned. Refresh your site, collapse your folders. This is what your site should look like. I'm probably going to have you take another screenshot of this. You've now completed into like the second hour lecture we did, and we're not to the third one yet, but we're really cruising along here. You can see how quick this stuff actually happens. Hopefully you open up your index, everything still looks like it should, because you didn't break the link when you dragged the CSS file into the folder. I mean, if you did, I've shown you how to fix it. You got to go back to those videos. It's very easy, not a big deal. Okay, so from here, you're going to start making changes, and we're going to open up index. And I may give you, depending on your section, a pre-designed template where there is only one HTML file, and it might be called homepage or something. And I'll probably tell you or ask you to give it the proper name that it should have, that the homepage should have in every website, and I probably won't tell you what it is. So you'll have to do that. And when you do that, I would do that in Dreamweaver as well. If it asks you to update links, you should probably update links, okay? Moving on here, we're now going to start changing things around. So we're going to set index up to be ready to clone it into other pages. So without doing all the changes, you're going to have to do stuff like go here and put in a new heading. And you need to be careful, because if you backspace over the heading and you go a little too far, let's go to split view so I can show you this. Remember, I did this in the one video where just simply by overusing your keyboard, you can actually delete tags that you want to keep in there. So by using the keyboard again and just hitting undo, which is Control-Z, you can get the tag back in. You just don't want to take too much out. And the same thing happens when you're editing the menu. Like if I need to change a word completely, like I need to change products to gear or something, okay, it works quite well to just type it in like that. But if I were sitting in there and I was backspacing, you can see in code I've removed the entire link. The line item's still there, but the link's gone. So if I just type in gear, it doesn't look the same because it doesn't have any kind of hyperlink on it at all to show me what the CSS is going to make a link look like. Once again, extensive lecturing on this in the second 1 hour part, in this part 2 of the 3 hour lecture series there. So I'm not going to get too into that, but if you add in the dead link again, and that's what a number sign is, it's dead link. it will show you what the CSS makes the hyperlink look like. So when you're going in and changing stuff, yes, you're going to have to do a bunch of little changes to content like that. Add this here, take this away there. You're also going to have to do your menu. So for each of these items, if I say change about us to just about, and then you're going to link to a page called about.html, you go in there, you type it in, you hit enter without scrolling around. You got to be careful because if you scroll, you might scroll past off the link. Once you put the link in, click on the next one. Okay, I'm going to put a capital G there. I had to change that word, which is not a big deal. And then I'm going to change that one to gear.html, and I might give you different file names. Okay, and then services is going to be services.html, and be very careful. Once again, see, as soon as I type it in and then I go .html, even after I hit enter, I'm still active in that box, so I can scroll by accident with my mouse or move around and go off the link I wanted. So once you get it in, click on the next one without moving your mouse around. Okay, so without recording these, I'm just going to finish the last couple there. Okay, and it's good to do this in split view so you can see as you're building the stuff. And you can see I put all the links in, of course, to pages I haven't created yet, and this is my whole cloning concept. I did spell one wrong on purpose, just to show you how to fix it, you know, so we can review that again quickly. So, and then I probably would definitely ask you to change this page title. You're probably going to start off or end with the indicator of which page you're on, and then talk about some keywords. And let's pretend we didn't have to change much on this. This was like some site about rock landscaping and stonework or something like that. Best prices here, telephone number. So you know how the SEO works, and we're not getting to that till after the test, but I would definitely ask you to change the title. And you're more than likely going to have sub nav, not just top nav, so you would have to go down here to sub nav. You can see there's just enough room too there if you wanted to add another menu item. In live view it doesn't look too bad right now, but if you wanted to add one you could. So this isn't a bad template. I might have a situation in a template where I ask you to add an item, okay, which could very easily happen, which means you just go into code view. It's the easiest spot to do it. I just copied that. Okay, here I'll right click copy so you know I'm doing it. Right click, copy, okay, enter down and paste an additional line item. It's identical, of course, but this last one is going to be called media. Okay, and I don't know what it is on the test. I mean, if I give you something like that, it's going to be similar. And then you would link that to a page called media.html. And you made a few other changes. You've done some stuff. You're about ready to clone this page now, which would finish that second hour lecture. So before you do, you want to make sure you save this. So file save, Control S. You can do, just to feel better about it, you can go file save. And now you're ready to make the rest of these pages off index. So just like the method I taught you. And of course, there's more stuff. I keep saying this. There's more stuff I would ask you to do, but it's just little content and text changes that wouldn't be a big deal. Nothing I need to demonstrate in the video here, and you wouldn't have much trouble getting them done. Okay, so once that's all set up on index, you do the cloning process. So again, I'm not going to be recording while I'm doing this. I'm already past half an hour and I'm really trying to keep this tight. So you're going to see me do it twice, and then I'm going to save the rest while I'm not recording, then they'll just all appear there. So about.html is the first one after index, okay? And you don't need to type that in really. I mean, as long as you default to save, the first choice is going to automatically be HTML. Make sure you're in the main site folder. Don't put them into pages just yet. Save them in the main site folder first. Okay, right off that one, I can go save as and save services, and I'm going to do the same thing all the way through to the end, okay? Okay, so you can see here I've made each of my 5 pages following index. I've saved them all right off index, and before you start making changes to the individual pages, and I'll probably leave this out of the test, because this is one of those skills that I've taught heavily, and I just want you guys to know to do. You're going to have typos, I guarantee it. And if you don't check for them now, it's going to be more work later. So I put in a couple typos on purpose. Once you get all your files set up, you don't need to go in and change the titles and all the content yet. Just go save all and close all. Make sure you get all your changes in there and you can close all. And now is a good time to go right here into the menu and check links site-wide. Great thing to do. Probably won't put it in the instructions, so you better know how to do it. So I got some typos that I didn't even notice I did. Did I not save gear? Oh yeah, that's right, I did that on purpose. So right away I can see I did something Wrong. I didn't save gear. I mean, I put that into my menu, but I must have just skipped it. Okay, so let's open index back up and do one more clone, because I can see how I see gear here. I have a link to gear on all these pages that I'm missing because I don't even have gear. Okay, so open up index and you can see gear is there. It's linked to gear, but I never saved gear. So do one more, save as. So this is a common mistake. We do this kind of stuff a lot. You're reading the instructions and you just miss something. Save gear. Okay, close these back up and then go and reload check links site-wide. All the links that I had broken to gear because I just didn't even create the file have now disappeared. Okay, and they've disappeared because I've actually made it. Here's another common mistake that people make. They type in a link to a file they're going to make, which is support.html, but I missed the P in it. So I go over here and I add the P, and this is the file it's in, and this is the broken link. You'll see it's in a bunch of files, but if you fix just one, Dreamweaver will say you want to fix the rest, and I say yes. Then I made yet another mistake, which is I named the file incorrectly, and I figured that out by looking here and seeing I have a link to media on every one. And if you have subnav, which you very well may, I probably will give you a test with subnav. I only put top nav on this one to speed up the process, but you'll probably have to do subnav as well, and it's just another place to have typos, which means you'll have double these. But if you go over here, so this one is fixed in the reverse way because I made the mistake over here in the file name. I fixed the file name, I update links, and then I go and check links site-wide to reload, and I fixed every one of my links. They're all done, no problem. How long did that take, right? And I had several typos. So you guys need to do that. That's why I'm putting this in the test prep video, and I'm going to show you in class, even though I'm not going to put it in the instructions. You should know better. Then you're going to open each of the pages back up, and this is something I'm not going to do for the sake of time in this video, but you're going to change stuff all over the page wherever I tell you to on each page, okay? Every page, and you're going to change it, make the changes, close it, do the next one, close it, do the next one, close it. Along the way, I'm probably going to ask you to, and I won't even demonstrate this because you've known it from the web workshop, do an email link, do an external link like an absolute link. So if you were doing that on the support page, for example, you would have your text that you're going to link to, you would highlight it, and you'd go down here and put the link in. If it's an email link, you go mail to, and you type in the email address. If it's an external absolute link, you do the HTTP www, type in the URL, the domain name. Okay, if it's an internal link, well, we've already done a bunch of those. And see there when I was doing links, how I didn't click off it yet? Now I'm scrolling in and adding links. Once you type links in, you can pick them up from the drop-down menu. Okay, and you can see the dead link still in there too, by the way, which you get rid of once you add the hyperlink on each thing. You don't leave that in there. That creates a dead link. As soon as you put an actual link in, you get rid of the number sign. So I'll ask you to make some links. I'll ask you at some point to put a picture in, I'm sure. So you would remove some text maybe on one of the pages. You would run over to Google Images, grab a picture within a certain size range, put it in your photos folder. So I'm going to go ahead and do that really quick. Okay, so here I'm at Google Images. I want to pick up something that's a reasonable size to fit into that div. Like this isn't too big, right? 400 by 300. Save image as. You're practicing file management here, so you're going to put it where I ask you to, which would likely be in the photos folder in your site. Okay, hey, that's actually all small letters, no spaces. That's pretty good. I might tell you to name it something specific though, so you would name it whatever I tell you to. And it could be a JPEG, PNG, GIF, whatever. You put it into photos. As soon as it's in there, you go into Dreamweaver. You should be pretty comfortable with the time we spent on images. I don't see it there yet. Well, that's because I'm in images, actually. Where did I just put it? Photos. So I still don't see it there, so refresh, and there it is. If you don't see it, just refresh in the Files pane, and you should see it. Drag it in there, drop it in, put some alternative text, which I'm definitely going to ask you to do. So best prices on natural patio stones, something. You can even put your phone number in there. Just getting ready for the SEO stuff we're going to do after the test. I got a graphic in there. I think that pretty much covers. So yeah, with the exception of like a lot of little stuff I ask you to change in all these pages. I mean, there's no surprises here. I might ask you to create like kind of a weird relative link back to the folder that's in raw or something, and then I might ask you to move it back out to the main folder or into pages because it should be in pages, and update links. It's just simple stuff you've already done. You just have to follow the directions in those cases. In fact, I might not even ask you to move all the pages into pages until later in the test. And you probably notice we haven't even done that yet. They're still all floating around out here. I probably have you make all those changes and everything, and then I have you close all the files, and then I have you take every one of them except index. So if you don't know how to highlight that stuff and then hit the control key, I highlighted them all and then I hit the control key and clicked off index. You might want to, just to be safe, drag them individually, but this is a lot faster. Drag them all at once. Update links for sure, you want to do that. Then the only thing you have to do is a bit of CSS stuff at the end here. And you notice I didn't have you changing the menu divs or anything like that. So you would just open up any page in your site to do this. And I believe what I ask you to do is change the entire width of the site, which involves changing the width of like a couple divs or something. It might be a little different depending on the version. But if I ask you, for example, to change some widths of the divs, and I said go to div content and make that 500, and then to even things back out, right? And you could have done that down here too. I could have typed it in. To even things back out, so the other div goes back in there, go to div sidebar and change that to 100. Take the 500 off, so just change it to 100 and hit enter. Really simple CSS div changes. And then remember, when you go to close the file, you haven't changed index at all, but you have changed style, so it'll ask you to save changes, and you want to click yes. And the same will apply with the CSS class if I ask you to do that, which I will ask you to do for 5 bonus points. You'd open up another file and you'd go to create a CSS class, and you're going to have to do another thing from this menu as well, which is kind of a silly thing I ask you to do, but I want to make sure you can actually use these tools. And even if you disconnect the CSS file from this page, so you would literally go here and remove the code completely for the CSS link, you just get rid of it. Okay, if you go back to design view, you've lost your CSS. I ask you to reattach it using this button here, and you browse and go pick it up from your CSS folder, just to show me that you can do it that way. Okay, because we've only learned to do it the code way, and I did have this in my lectures. And to show me that you can do this, right before you click OK, you take another screenshot, put it in your screenshots folder or file, and then you save the file, and I think that would be your last screenshot. So I'm not going to do that. So there's one little thing, and then you can save changes to index. And then the last one, if you want to do the bonus marks, again, you can open up any page. It really doesn't matter. Once the page is open, you can go and add, or you could just open up the CSS file, because I don't think I actually have you apply it to anything. I just say to add a class. So it's just a special font that you want to maybe apply to some stuff. So you would go hit the plus sign, and you would choose to add a CSS class and make sure it's going into this style sheet, and you'd call it whatever I tell you to call it, test CSS something. As soon as you click OK, it takes you into the type dialog box, and I won't ask you to go further past any of these categories. I'm just going to ask you to do like a font size and some kind of font type. Okay, I might have you do something else in here, and then you click OK. You click OK. As soon as you do it, it adds to the very bottom of your CSS file. And that at the very end of the test, I can check to see if you did that for those bonus marks. All right. And we have dealt with classes quite a bit, and I put quite a bit on those in the videos as well. So it's not something I expect a lot of people to miss, and it's worth, what do I have it set in as? Like 5 extra marks on the test. Okay. So you Control S there. I just saved the style sheet. I saved everything, closed it up. Okay, and then you've got this set up. By the way, if your files sort like this and you have the files on top of the folders instead of the other way around, or it looks different because you're on a Mac and it just doesn't look the same and you're taking screenshots, I don't care about that stuff. It's totally fine, okay? That would be the end of the test. So how do we do here? I really wanted to keep it under half an hour, but I do tend to talk and explain things quite a bit. I just want to be fair to you guys and make sure you do well in the test. And for those of you that aren't in my class, you know, I did want to make sure I mentioned whenever I was doing something where it was covered, and it is covered in most of these lecture videos. I mean, nothing I did here was left out in any of the full lecture videos. And within the time we had here, which is, well, was well under 45 minutes if I would just shut up for a second, we made this entire website, had all these pages, checked all the links, we added a file to here, we did a bunch of stuff. We've got a site ready to go in less than an hour. I mean, and I talked a lot. I mean, if I would just sit and do it, I could literally do it in about 25 minutes, the entire test. And the only reason it takes that long is because I have to read the instructions to make sure I'm doing everything right. I'm the teacher, so granted, it's going to take me a little less time, guys, but a lot of you will finish within an hour and be happy about it, and you'll do well, okay? I give you 2 hours because I want to make sure I'm fair to everybody at every level. Some people just haven't been paying attention to computers as much lately, and they aren't as quick, and they will get better as a result of tests like this. So that's what we're going to have on the test. If you've gone through this video and you don't know what the hell's going on, you got to go back and watch the full lecture videos that you've missed, which are all posted in that playlist on YouTube. And of course, if we refer to my notes in FOL, I have made a reference to that in several spots. Okay, so if you look at week 7, which we're about to go into, and you look at the master list, I say right here, hey, go to this playlist. Watch those first 3-hour lectures if you missed the classes. I do all this stuff in there and explain it in detail. If you go to this PDF sheet here that goes through the skills required for the test and kind of gives you some warnings for the test and talks about it, this as well links to it there. It links to it here. So I'm trying to be really fair about this, even for the section that takes it 3 days from now. I mean, I've got this information out right off the top of the week, so everybody knows what's going on ahead of time. Okay, it is a test week. It's worth 20% of your grade. You got to be on board with that. All right, so the stuff you need to prepare is all in week 7 here, and how to do screen prints. These will be moved to the test module in FOL when I set the test module up, so you'll see it there too. So you won't have any trouble with that. So once it's all said and done, and you've finished it, you've closed Dreamweaver. Okay, so I got Dreamweaver closed up. I go into my screenshots file. I added a few extra screenshots, which I didn't actually do, just to speed the video up. I close that one up. Okay, I go to my test folder. I give it a quick peek, make sure everything's in there, pages, everything's in the site folder. I didn't have any stupid extra folders floating around. I got a zipped version in RAW. I probably will have had to move that at some point. It's, you know, I'm not sure which version of the test you're going to get or what the instructions tell you to do. You just got to follow the instructions. Everything's good, it's done. You take this entire test folder and you zip that up, okay? And you're either add to archive with RAR, or send a compressed zip. Everybody got it for the web workshop. And of course, this should pick up the exact name that I told you to name your test automatically. And this is what you put in the Dropbox before it closes, okay? So I took 45 minutes to do this, plus a little, but I did talk too much, and I had to teach you guys how to do screenshots in the middle of it. This could be a very short and good experience for you. And during your first class this week, I will, of course, go over all the details. If you jump back to that PDF file, it does cover some of the details as well. If you would have scrolled a little farther in it, you can see I talk about the test and how it's laid out. And then if you go down here, I give you a bunch of rules for the test. Watch my YouTube videos. This is open book, but no audio. Don't miss the test. You'll get a 0. Standard testing rules. Guys, I can't stress this enough. Everybody's, and you're still going to raise your hand and be like, what's going on? What's up? Check out my shitty computer. And excuse me, I'm trying not to swear in my videos, but it's not your computer. Something's going wrong. You haven't paid attention to the instructions. I know you guys are trying to call me over and say, oh, I'm having technical problems. My computer sucks. This is my computer. If you're legitimately having technical problems and you get the blue screen of death or something, yeah, we're going to figure out, we're going to resolve the issue, okay? But outside of that, you can't pretend there's something wrong when you really just don't know what's going on. These instructions in this test will be extremely specific and tell you exactly what to do. When you come in, you better have a laptop that's working. You better be able to connect to the internet because, as I said, it's all part of this test. When you're done, you'll navigate over to the Dropbox. You'll put it in the appropriate Dropbox, which, of course, you can't see yet. And there's 3 versions. I don't know why I only have 2 there. And you're done. You guys are done. So if I ran back into my YouTube channel here really quick, and they're not up yet because they just finished uploading. But when you go, they just finished uploading here. Sorry, what? Oh yeah, channel. I am just losing my mind here. When you go in here, you're going to go down and you're going to go to the intro playlist. That's what we're working with now, going into the Dreamweaver test. This is part 1. This will be part 2 and part 3. They're just not in there yet. And then this compressed video will follow, which shows you how to do everything on the test, and is substantially less than an hour. And good luck, guys. I think you're going to be fine. If you've gone through all this stuff and you can go over it and over it and over it and pause it and rewatch it and everything, I really think you're going to be okay. All right? And as you can see through the steps and through the concepts, you're really not doing that much so far. Okay, we've done quite a bit more CSS editing than the CSS editing I ask you to do on the test. So I think you guys will be good, all right? Email me on FOL, as always, if you have any questions, and I will see you in class. And for those of you that aren't in my class, thanks again for watching. I appreciate it. I will see you soon.